Hello. Hello.
Yeah, you are audible, sir.
Yeah. Shall I start?
Yeah, you can start, sir.
Yes. Thank you. A very good afternoon to one present for this development program on outcome-based education, a step towards excellence. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Government College of Karad, the organizing committee, all the organizers for giving this opportunity to share some of my experience with all of you over here. Just hold a moment. Yeah. Before moving on to the uh, thing, the presentation has been prepared by Ms. Mohammed Ansari, and she supported by our coordinator, Mr. Staples. So I would also like to thank both of them for contributing in the efforts taken for making the presentation. Which what I'm going to cover in this 1.5 hours is that we just go through the philosophy of the outcome education and what is the paradigm shift from the previous format to this outcome education format. The relation of the core outcomes, program, outcome, attributes, and mission. The POs, POs, PHs, and we keep discussing. And we'll also go into the attributes, which probably might happen covered in the previous sessions also. I thought that we are going to discuss about the curriculum design, and these are the things which are important when we are going to discuss about the design of the curriculum. We'll go into the two-tier system because, as all of you are aware, 10 is for both the tier 1 and tier 2 colleges, where tier 1 the autonomous colleges, the universities, and tier 2 are all the affiliated colleges. So I will go into the contents because our the curriculum design basically comes under the criteria 2. So I will go into the what are the points which are there in the format. We will be going to curriculum design for tier 1 and for tier 2. We will also just taking a look at how these scoring rubrics are used as assessment tools when we are actually going to design the curriculum. This is an example of the scoring rubrics and assessing of higher order abilities and professional skills. So then moving on to the very first this state of philosophy of outcome-based education. I hope that previous presenters might have done, but just to have a recap, we'll just go into the content. Uh, what I've seen or what we are seeing on the slide is the input based accreditation. All of you are aware is that for any program there are certain inputs, and the inputs which we have are mainly the financial resources, then the lab equipments or the lab infrastructure, then the total infrastructure facilities, then the faculties who are a major contribution, and then the number of students. So we call them these as the measurable inputs. And all this together, they impact on what we treated as the measurable outputs. And the measurable outputs are the number of students who are going to graduate from a particular institute, then what are their quantitative grades, and what is the success rate of the students. So this is a basic format of the input-output based accreditation, where we are going to give certain inputs and then we are going to expect certain outputs. And the outputs are basically all our student centric, because what we are trying to do over here is that each and every institute is looking that they'll be offering quality education to their students. Moving on to the second slide, we are just having a comparison between the previous input-output based education system and the outcome-based education system. So if you look at this particular slide, when we talk in terms of the infrastructure, it remains same. When we talk about the teacher students, both of them are same. Then in the previous format, it was the pass percentage. The focus was only on how many students were passed out from that particular institute. But now, when we talk about the outcome-based education, it is not only the pass percentage, but importance is also being given to what is the knowledge gained by those students. What are the skills developed in them? What is the behavioral attitude what the students have developed in them? These are the things which are now being looked into the outcome-based education. And moving on to the fourth point, placement. So placement was actually just seen in terms of number. Now today, along with placements, the placements are seen what is their pay package, then in which companies they are placed, whether they are placed in core companies or whether they are just placed in some KPOs, BPOs or software companies. Importance has been equally given to the higher studies and also the entrepreneurship activities. Now this is a major thing which all the colleges have to take into consideration is that now they should not focus only on the placement aspect, but they should also look into that the students can have an opportunity to become entrepreneurs. Because what we are trying to focus today is we are talking about things like the Make in India, Digital India, and so many things. And there are a lot many of opportunities for the engineering graduates, especially, who will be completing their graduation. So this aspect has to be also looked in, and that has been given a weightage in this outcome-based education. What we are talking is that whatever inputs we are going to give to the students, how they are going to be reflected as a whole when the student graduates from that. Now, when we are coming specifically to the curriculum design, curriculum design is one of the most important key components of the outcome-based education, and which we are going to discuss at length in this presentation. Then we will just going through what is the relation between the course outcomes, the program outcomes, program educational outcomes, the graduate attributes, and the mission. This is the diagram which we have drawn. I'll call it as the diagram. When if you look at this carefully, you'll see that right hand side we have shown the mission. Then we have the program educational objectives. Then we have the program outcomes. The inputs to the program outcomes are the 12 graduate attributes which we are seeing. And then from the program outcomes, we are moving on to the course outcomes. Now, the important thing when we are going to do the curriculum design is that any institute for that matter, whether it is a tier 1 or tier 2, when the curriculum is to be designed, rather I just want to mention one point over here is that the tier 2 institutions, since they are being affiliated, they do not have a lot of say in the curriculum design. But when we move on, we'll also see what are the things which even the tier 2 institutes can do. But when a tier 1 institute is going to design their curriculum, the important thing is that they should start with what is the vision of their institute. Then the vision has to be linked with the mission. Or the mission can be a single statement, or it can be in terms of the different objectives or the short term or long term goals. So those have to be taken into consideration when the program educational objectives of that particular institutes are set. Because we all of you are aware about a program. A program means an individual branch which is being run in that institute. So it can be a mechanical program, it can be a ENTC, it can be a computer, it can be an I. So the program educational objectives are to be set depending upon what is the mission of that particular institute. Then next comes the program outcomes. So when we are talking about the program outcomes, the important thing is that the NBA has given the 12 graduate attributes. Even the same thing when we, if some of you have gone through the Abbott process also, or if you know about the same 12 attributes are there also. So the mapping or rather the inputs have to be taken from the graduate attributes, the 12 graduate attributes, which I'll just go into the details when we move on further in our presentation. So those have to be taken as inputs when the program outcomes are what you can say jotted down, and then it comes to the course outcomes. Now, all of you, when we are talking about the curriculum design, the course outcome is very, very important, because when, let us say, I want to teach some particular subject, or rather, I should put it in this way, that I want to design a curriculum for, say, XZ subject. Now, when I'm going to design the contents of that course, first I should understand what is the mission of my institute, what are my program educational objectives, what are the program outcomes, and based on that, I should design the course outcome. Now, course outcomes are basically is that on completion of a particular course, what is the ability of the student to do when he completes that particular course. So when we are going to design a particular course, please remember that first you are supposed to identify what would be the objectives, that why am I supposed to teach a particular subject to a particular student, and at after teaching that subject, what is the gain the student is going to get after learning that subject for a particular period of time. So this is very important chart. So I'm again emphasizing that when, if you happen to be in a tier 2, sorry, happen to be in a tier 1 institute, whenever you are designing a course, please see into this aspect that you start right from your mission statement, then go to your POs, then go to the POs, and then come to your course outcomes, or rather set your objectives and course outcomes. So this is very, very important slide as far as when we are going to discuss about the curriculum design. Then moving on to the next slide, I'll go one by one. So let us first see what are the program education objectives. So I've just briefly described the things over here. So you get overview again, because I know that probably this might have been covered in the previous sessions also, but I thought that it is of importance because you have to relate all these things when you are going to design the course curriculum. So the program educational objectives are broad statements that describe the career and professional accomplishments that the program is preparing graduates to achieve. So these are very broad statements to be made. So what we can say is that these are like your objectives or your short-term or long-term goals. Then moving on to the program outcomes. So these program outcomes are the statements that describe what students are expected to know and be able to do upon graduating from the program. So these relate to the skills, knowledge, attitude, and behavior that students acquire through the program. So let us say that there is a program, a ENTC program. So when the program outcomes are the statements that that particular department defines, taking into consideration that they are going to relate that what the graduate of that ENTC department is going to gain in terms of the skills, knowledge, attitude, and behavior. So this is called as the program outcome. Then moving on to the next, that is the program specific outcomes. So now this program specific outcomes are very, very specific to the department. So program specific outcomes describe what students are expected to know or be able to do in the field of their respective branch by the time they graduate. So now over here, we are moving on to very, very specific things that a student who is going to graduate from a particular branch, what he is supposed to know after graduation. Then moving to the next point, that is we have the course outcomes. So course outcomes are the narrow statements that describe what students are expected to know and are able to do at the end of each course. These relate to the skills, knowledge, and behavior that students acquire in their progress through the course. So if you look at all these definitions and the previous slide, now the things will be more clear that when you are going to design a particular course, the things have to be narrowed down, and then you are supposed to take into consideration that when you are going to design a particular course, you are supposed to first think that why the student should learn this, and then next is what he is going to gain after learning that particular course. So this is the important thing. And when you are doing this course outcomes, defining the course outcomes or course objectives, you have to take into consideration the program specific outcomes, the program outcomes, and the program educational outcome objectives of that particular institute. So this are the very basic definitions. Moving on to the graduate attributes, as I said that already these might have been discussed, but again, these are of immense importance whenever you are going to design a particular course. Because as what we have shown in the previous diagram, the graduate attributes play an important role when you are going to design the program outcomes. So we can say that the program outcomes are based on the 12 graduate attributes which have been specified by NBA. So first is engineering knowledge. So we know that the student should be able to apply the knowledge of mathematics, science, fundamentals, and engineering specialization to the solution of complex engineering and the cultural, societal, and environmental considerations. Then moving on to the fourth attribute, it talks about the student should be able to conduct investigations of the complex problems. So you should be able to use research-based knowledge, research methods, including design of experiments, analysis, interpretation, and synthesis of the information to provide a valid conclusion. So over here, the fourth objective is, or the graduate attribute says that the student should try to gain knowledge, he should try to design experiments, he should try to modern tool usage. So the student should be able to create, select, and apply the appropriate technology and modern engineering and IT tools in prediction, modeling, engineering activities with an understanding of the limitations. So here the first thing is that the student should be able to, rather I'll talk in terms, he should be first able to know what are the different modern tools available for him. Then he should be able to select which tool he is supposed to select while doing a particular project or particular job. And finally, I'll come to that when he reaches after certain experience, he should be in a position to create some tool which can be used by the engineering community or as a whole by the industry. So this is the fifth graduate attribute which we want. So what we are going to do is that whenever we are going to design a particular curriculum, we are supposed to take into consideration all these graduate attributes so that nothing is missed and we are going to give the student the best possible thing he should know.
माने सर,
हाँ सर, बोला.
सॉरी सॉरी सर, तुमच्या आवाजामध्ये थोडासा ब्रेक होतोय. एकदा
बरं.
चेक करता का इंटरनेट कनेक्शन थोडस,
इंटरनेट कनेक्शन
कारण
होतो का?
तुमचा आवाज थोडा थोडा ब्रेक होत येतोय. काही
बरं.
इंटरनेट कनेक्शनचा इश्यू आहे तर
आता येतोय सर?
आता ठीक आहे. ब्रेक होतोय सर जरा.
एक मिनिट.
ठीक आहे, आवाज येतोय, काही इश्यू नाहीये, पण थिंग त्याचा होतो की थोडासा ब्रेक ब्रेक येतोय. ठीक आहे, काय अडचण नाही, कंटिन्यू करा. येते आता पैकी आवाज येतोय. सॉरी सर, सॉरी फॉर इंटरप्शन.
नाही ठीक आहे, तो हेडफोन लावतो तो काढा. Okay. Sorry. So moving on to the next. So this is to talk about teaching and society, and what we are trying to say is that apply learning comes the additional knowledge to assess societal health, safety, legal cultural issues, and consequent responsibilities related to the professional impacts. All of us are on the COVID-19. So this point is very much applicable. We are talking about a lot of things in this aspect. So we have seen many examples that these graduates are coming forward and they are responding to all the challenges in terms of this point. They are coming forward with different innovations. So this is possible only because the students have been exposed. Yes.
So once again, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you could switch off your audio, म्हणजे camera, then it will be better because there may be creating some issue of bandwidth.
एक मिनिट. आता येतोय आवाज?
आता परफेक्ट सर, काहीच अडचण नाही.
आता ठीक आहे, व्हिडिओ बंद केला आहे. ओके ओके.
आणि जर केला तर बरं पडेल. बहुतेक माझाही issue असू शकतो. तुम्ही जर आता येतोय आवाज. सर पूर्ण आवाज बंद झाला तुमच्या साईडनं. माने सर
आता येतोय? आता येतोय? हॅलो?
तुटक ब्रेक होतोय. माईक काढून परत एकदा कनेक्ट करा. होपफुली इट विल बी बेटर. Disconnect your mic and then you, if you have the headphone, you can use the headphones. हाँ ठीक है.
हॅलो?
हाँ ठीक है सर, येतोय आवाज.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next. Moving on to the next, talk about the environment and sustainability. So the student should understand the impact of the professional engineering solutions in societal and environmental context and demonstrate the knowledge of and of sustainable development. The next is ethics, a very important thing which previously most of the syllabus as such or the courses there were things which were not taught to the graduates, but now we have seen that many autonomous colleges or universities are taking care that even the ethics are being taught, especially with the IICT coming out with the new induction program, where they have also specified or they focus on this thing that the student should be taught about the professional ethics and certain things should be imbibed in there. So when you are designing the course, these content should also be there because these are very important things. Going on next is the individual and teamwork. This is very important thing because all of us know that a graduate, an engineering graduate, when he moves on to the industry, is not going to work standalone. He's always going to work in a team, and an individual has to learn how he's supposed to work in a team, accept his colleagues, and so many things are there which probably we have been doing through the mini projects or maybe certain other projects or certain other activities. So this has to be also taken into consideration when the course curriculum is being designed. The next important point is the communication. Obviously, this content was not there, but now many universities or the institutes have taken care and have also included this part. In Pune University, we have included the soft skill where these things have been taken in the form of an audit course. The next is the project management and finance. Many a times it happens that the engineering graduates basically they are not aware about all these management principles. Very few things are there when they're doing the projects. They are doing the projects, but they are not knowing the concepts behind all this management principles which they are supposed to know or they are supposed to apply. So things are also be taken into consideration when a particular curriculum is being designed. Then lifelong learning is the most important thing is because at the end of the day, what we want is that when a student graduates from any institute, he should carry with him the lifelong learning things which he has gained in this 4 years. So we are saying that recognize the need for and have preparation and ability to engage in independent and lifelong learning in the broad context.
So these are the 12 graduate attributes. As I mentioned, that probably this might have been also covered in the previous sessions, but this is very important thing, because when we are going to design any curricula, these are the important aspects that anybody who is designing the curriculum has to take all this point into consideration. Next, moving on to this, so all of you are aware that there are the NBA has given the two-tier system for the undergraduate courses. So in the tier one, we know that we have all the IITs, the autonomous central state universities, and tier two are all the affiliated colleges. Moving on to the next. Okay, the important thing is the marks difference. I'll come to this specific thing also. The marks in the NBA criteria for the tier one, it is 30 marks, and for the tier two, for the curricular design aspect, it is 20 marks. Moving on to the criteria number two, because the contents, the curriculum design comes in the criteria two. The criteria two is program, curriculum, and teaching learning aspects. The speaker after me is going to focus on the teaching learning aspect. I'm not going to go into the details, but I thought that since it is a combined thing, I should also just present the same. So what are the contents in criteria two? So I'll be differentiating between the contents of tier one and tier two. So on this slide, what we're saying is that in terms of the total marks for this criteria two, for tier one it is 100 marks, and for tier two it is 120 marks. So the 2.1 we have program curriculum, which 30 marks, and for tier 2 curriculum is 20 marks. Today focus on what I'm going to emphasize is on the program curriculum, that is how to design the curriculum. Then this is the teaching learning processes, 70 marks for tier 1 and 100 marks for the tier 2. So after my session, Prasad is going to discuss about the different teaching learning processes. Moving on to the detailing of the criteria wise. So when we talk about the program curriculum for tier 1 IIT, we have 30 marks. There are in all 4 subpoints. The first subpoint talks about state the delivery details of the content on the syllabus for attainment of POs and PSOs. So what we are going to discuss is that we are supposed to state the delivery of the details of the content beyond syllabus for the attainment of POs and PSOs. So the content beyond syllabus, it means that the syllabus which you are having currently does not have certain things for attainment of the POs and PSOs, and you are supposed to talk on how you are adding this content beyond syllabus to make up or to achieve the program outcomes and program specific objectives. The next is the structure of the curriculum. As I mentioned, it is just for 5 marks. Then state the components of the curriculum. So what are the components in the curriculum? Again, 5 marks. And the fourth point is state the process used to identify extent of compliance of the curriculum for attending program outcomes and program specific outcomes as mentioned in another one of the reports. So it is 10 marks. So when we talk about the curriculum, program curriculum aspect, there are 30 marks for the tier 1 colleges, and for tier 2, it is only 20 marks. So in this, for tier 2, if you look at the point number 1, it is state the process used to identify extent of compliance of the university curriculum. Second thing is state the delivery details of the content beyond the syllabus for the attainment of POs and PSOs. So for the tier 2 colleges which do not have the flexibility of designing a curriculum, the NBA is just asking only 2 things. One is about what are the things you are doing about the content beyond syllabus to achieve your program outcomes and program specific objectives. And second thing is they are talking about the process you identify extent of compliance of the university curriculum. So they are also talking about what is the process that you are adopting or following to identify the gaps to attain the program specific or program objectives from based on your university curriculum, because we know that since we do not have a flexibility, there are many things which are not in your hand. One more thing, what we have observed is that now since last 3-4 years, when these outcome based education has started, many universities are defining the course objectives and course outcomes. But my say over here is that when we look at the course objectives and course outcomes, basically they should be linked with the institute's program educational objectives and the mission and vision of the institute. So it is very difficult for the tier 2 institutions to see that how this mapping can be done. So this is very important thing, that is that whenever you are going to work on this criteria 2, the tier 2 colleges especially, you have to take immense care that how you are going to present, because as I said that you have got very limited or minimum flexibility, but yes, out of that how we are going to project that what best we are offering to our students. Because when we talk in terms of the tier 1 colleges, yes, we know that they have the academic autonomy in which they are going to do all these things. The thing which my first slide said is that they can they can frame their structure, they can frame their syllabus depending upon their program outcomes, their program education objectives, their PSOs, and also their missions. But for us, or rather for the tier 2 institutes, it is very, very difficult to have in between all these things. Moving on to the next, I won't go into the details, but the second part is the teaching learning process. For tier 1, it is 70 marks, and for tier 2 is again similar. So we have in this describe processes followed to improve quality of teaching learning, quality of end semester examination, quality of student projects, initiatives related to industry. So I won't go into the details of this slide. It is just for the sake of having a continuity for the next session also. So I won't go into the details of this particular slide. Moving on to the curriculum design of the tier 1 institutions. Let us see what we have. As I said that we have got 30 marks in the NBA criteria. So what we are supposed to do over here is the program curriculum should be aligned with the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, which I have already emphasized. Then the program curriculum is to be designed in such a way that the student should demonstrate. The first thing is the essential knowledge, the skills and abilities needed for professional practice and higher studies. So again, I'm repeating the same thing, is that when you are going to design a program curriculum for the students, we should take care that the student should demonstrate the essential knowledge, the skills and the abilities needed for professional practice and higher studies. The curriculum structure shall comprise of, again, the basic thing, because since there are certain marks in the tier 1, you have the course code, course title, total number of contact hours, credits. This is a very general thing. We won't go into the details of this. Yeah. Then the curriculum should be grouped based on the components such as the core, the elective subjects, the basic science subject, engineering science subject, humanities, projects and internship. So here we have the pie chart which shows that what is the percentage of the core subject. So it should be around 34%. For the electives, it should be around 13%. Then we have the basic sciences around 18%. Then we have the engineering science 17%, humanities 8%, project and internship we have 11%. So this is a basic thing which anybody who is going to design the structure and curricula should take into consideration, because these are the guidelines which have been given to us by the apex bodies. So this is very important factor, that whenever you are designing a curriculum, you have to break it down into all these 6 aspects, where you have the major thing as the core subjects, then the elective subjects, the subjects of basic science, basic engineering science, humanities and projects. Then the important thing is that the process to identify the extent of compliance of the curriculum for attaining the program outcomes and program specific outcomes shall be articulated. So this is important. So we have to tell how we are going to do all these things. So the process to identify the extent of compliance of the curriculum for attaining the program outcomes and program specific outcomes shall be articulated. So you have to write down how you are going to do all these things in that point number 2.1. Then program curriculum should include methods to improve teaching and learning processes, which may include so we have it must have adherence to the academic calendar, improving the institution methods, then quality of laboratory experience with regard to conducting experiments, recording observations, analysis of data, etc. The next is encouraging bright students, assisting weak students. So I'm again repeating that program curriculum should include methods to improve quality of teaching and learning processes, which may include, once again, I'm repeating all these four things. It is adherence to the academic calendar, first thing. Second thing is improving the instruction methods, pedagogical initiatives, then quality of laboratory experiences, and encouraging bright students and assisting weak students. This is a very important point, which maybe other speakers will also emphasize on this, because all of you know that we have all types of students. We have the bright students also, we have the weak students also. So the important role which we have to play when we are designing the curriculum is that the bright students should get an opportunity to learn more advanced things, and the weak students should get assessment when they are learning certain basic things. So this is a very important thing that always anybody who is designing the curriculum should keep in mind. They should not also, because many times it happens that certain subjects, the teacher, based on his experience or the knowledge which he has gained, he makes the course maybe too heavy, which the common students do not understand, or many a times it happens the other way around, that the course is made too light, that the bright students do not enjoy learning that subject. So this thing has to be taken into consideration also when a particular course is being designed. Then the program should include the initiatives related to, now it is possible only in the tier 1, so industry interaction in terms of industry attached laboratories, partial delivery of appropriate courses by industry experts. So as I said, that since the tier 1 institutions do have a flexibility in their academy, they can always have their structure whereby they can have some 6 months internship programs where they are attached with certain industries. They can also have the other way around, that the industries may be having some attached laboratories in their institutions, or they may be having certain ties with industry experts, where the industry experts may be coming and taking certain lectures. Now even in Pune University, just to give a flavor of this thing, we have something called as the open elective, where the flexibility has been given to the institutes that they can have a tie-up with certain industries, and if they wish that they want certain industry oriented things to be taught to the students, they should get an approval from the university. So this little flexibility has been given in the University of Pune in terms of the open elective which is being offered. But for the tier 1 institutes, it is a very general thing that they have all these facilities available with them. Then industry internship or summer training, as I mentioned, that in most of the autonomous colleges it has been made mandatory, but to say that even the tier 2 colleges can do this exercise, because nowadays there are many options and availabilities of the internship programs. There are online internship programs which are available for the students even of the tier 2 colleges, and the tier 2 colleges should also look from this aspect that okay, they can offer this industry internship or summer training. The period may not be a very big period, but they can have a period of 1 month where it can be possible during the vacations. I would just like to mention that in our college since the last 2 years, we have been making this arrangement of these third year students who are going to the BE. We have made it almost mandatory that they should go to industry and take an internship program of 1 month, which is too small a period, but yes, at least they get some exposure, and it is possible, or probably since we are in Pune, it is possible that maybe almost all 100% students do go or join this summer trainings or internship programs. But my recommendation is that even for the tier 2 where this is not in their structure or course anywhere, they can do it on their own, which can add value to their students. And I think that I have observed that many institutions have started doing these things. Moving on to the curriculum design for the tier 2. So when we talk about the tier 2, that is the affiliated colleges, over here again it carries only 20 marks. So the institutes in tier 2 are affiliated, as I mentioned. Hence it is required to have a process to identify extent of compliance of the university curriculum for attaining the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, identify curricular gaps. Now I'm onto a very specific thing for the tier 2 institutions, because as I mentioned that since these institutes do not have a flexibility, but they have to identify what are the gaps which they are supposed to overcome to attain their program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So I'll just move on further. So they can adapt this following process. There are 3 steps which we have mentioned over here. Is that the first step is the institutes or the programs or the departments must classify the courses in curriculum into broad components as mathematics, science, computing, soft skills, professional core, etc. Whatever subjects they are having. Then they should map the curriculum components with the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Third is list the POs and PSOs which are not mapped with any of the curriculum components from step 2. So now if you look at this 3 steps, so what a affiliated or a tier 2 college should do is that they must classify their courses in the broader components which we have already seen. Then next is they should map the curricular components with the POs and PSOs what they have set for their institutes and their programs. And the third thing is that the list of POs and PSOs which are not mapped with any of the curriculum components, they are supposed to identify. Now over here, this step 3 is a very important step for the tier 2 institutes, because once they identify what are the gaps, then they can do certain activities related to the gap identification to attain their own program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So this is just a table showing how you can just broadly classify the subjects which you have in your regular structure and curriculum for a particular department. Then this is just one table which we have shown. I'll just go through it. So this table, what we have shown over here is that we are going to identify the gaps. I have just taken an example, just a basic example. So if you look at this table, what we have done is the first column, we have talked about the curriculum, where we have broadly divided that curriculum into mathematics, science, computing, soft skills, and professional. These are just examples. You can have other subjects also. And then we have taken the components of the program outcomes or the graduate attributes and the program specific objectives, right? And then we have mapped. So I'm just taking an example. Let us say that the first program outcome, it was about the learning of the fundamental subjects. So mathematics 3, yes, if you look at the bottom, we have given rating as 1, 2 and 3, whether it is fully mapped, whether it is moderately mapped, or whether it is highly mapped. So 3 means it is highly mapped. So when we talk about the first program outcome, where we are talking about the fundamental things, yes, we have the mathematics subjects being taught in the first year. So it is fully mapped. Then some science subjects you have mapped it as 2, some computing subjects there is nothing about soft skill and professional ethics, so it is dash dash. Then in this way, for all the 12 graduate attributes and or the program outcomes and your specific outcomes, you can map and identify. So wherever there is a dash, it means that that particular component is not there in your structure or curriculum which you are following of your home university. So if you look over here, the dots or the dashes means you are supposed to do certain activities related to gain certain outcomes for those program outcomes which you have stated. So again, you can just have a look at this table. So I'm again repeating this point. So what we are doing in this table is that, as I am again repeating, that the tier 2 institutions do not have the flexibility of designing their structure and curriculum, but what they have to do is that the structure or syllabus of their own university, the programs, the program outcomes and program specific objectives which they have set for their own selves, they should map it in this particular fashion and identify the gaps, because once you identify the gaps, then it becomes very easy for the tier 2 institutions to carry out certain activities which may help in attainment of their course outcomes and course objectives, or to be more specific, the program outcomes. So now what are the things we can do is institute should provide the inputs to the affiliating university regarding curricular gaps and possible additions of new contents, add-on courses in curriculum to better attain POs and PSOs. Now, as what we have said over here is that, yes, we do not have, that is the tier 2 institutions do not have the flexibility, but what they can do is the exercise which they have done, they can inform the affiliating university about the changes which needs to be carried out in the certain courses so that it can help them in attaining their POs and PSOs. So it can be done because generally when the NBA teams do visit, they'll also see that, okay, even though you are not having the flexibility, what are the things which proactively you have done. So it is always there that we know that in many of the institutions, we have our teachers who are on the board of studies, who are there on the academic council, who are there in the Senate. So they are in most of the bodies, or it is always possible that even though the teachers of certain colleges are not on these bodies, they can always write these things to their BOS chairmen and keep a record of this, indicating that, okay, these are the things which we have done. One more thing is that many times in the, or rather in the NBA, it is expected that as what we have our governing body and the local managing committee or the CDC, each department or each program, they should also have their department advisory body, which we call it as the DAB. So the DAB is also one important body which plays a crucial role in giving inputs to the curriculum design and the structure. Because in our college, or rather many of the colleges are doing the same thing, is that they are taking inputs from this DAB, where we know that the DAB, the constitution itself in the DAB, it includes the persons from industry, the persons from professional bodies, then your alumni, your students, your senior teachers. So when all this group of people come together, naturally when they discuss about, or when they take a review about the existing curricula, they always find certain gaps, and these gaps can be further given to the university. So as I said, that the letter emails to the subject chairmen can be made, stating about what are the curricular gaps, possible additions of new contents, add-on courses in the curriculum. Then the institute should plan for the additional courses, material content, laboratory experiments, project, etc. arising, identified as shown in the tabular format. So when you identify the gaps, it becomes very clear that maybe for certain program outcome for attainment of that, you may require certain additional course to be given, or you may need that certain additional laboratory experiments may have to be set other than what regular content you have, or maybe you'll have to talk about the content beyond syllabus, because there are already 10 marks for what you are doing for content beyond syllabus. Then so these things you have to identify and work upon all these things. So this is a table from the format where they have talked about the serial number, what is the gap identified, action taken, date and month of the year, resource person with designation, number of students present, relevance to POs and PSOs. So this is the table format which NBA requires. So I'll just put over here what are the documentary evidences which are required. So when you are preparing for this, then what you require, the proofs, I've also given what is the table and the proofs. So you require the proof of a copy of teaching plan indicating planning of contents to bridge the gap. So first thing is you'll have to have, because it has become a regular practice that in all the colleges, teachers have their teaching plan ready prior to the start of the semester. So the teachers in their teaching plan itself should include what are the contents they are going to deliver to the students to bridge the curriculum gap or content beyond syllabus. So there should be a certain proof you should keep ready with you. Then you should also have summary of the lecture activities conducted with photographs. Then you should have the attendance of the students for a particular lecture from the industry which you have conducted, or maybe a particular workshop which you have conducted for the students to gain certain knowledge, or maybe it can be for the additional laboratory experiments, or where you have the students staying beyond working hours in the lab to gain some additional knowledge. And then if there is certain external resource persons coming to deliver certain contents, then you should have as a documentary proof the invitation letter given to them, the resource person's feedback, the students' feedback taken, and if you're giving certain remuneration to those resource persons, you should also have a documentary proof of this. So this is just a slide where we are talking that once you have identified the gaps in the curricula which are required for the attainment of your POs and PSOs, then you can carry out all these activities. And while carrying out all these activities, the NBA team may require certain proofs which you can keep. So these are certain examples which I have put over here. So it will just give you certain idea. So you can have many broad ideas based on this, where you can have your own formats of doing all these things. Then again, when you talk about the curriculum design for tier 2, so similar to the tier 1 institutes to improve quality of teaching and learning, tier 2 institutes should take initiatives that include again the same thing which we talked for the tier 1. So it remains the same, that adherence to the academic calendar should be there, improving the instruction methodology, pedagogical initiatives such as world examples, collaborative learning should be there, quality of laboratory experience with regard to conducting experiments, recording observations, analysis of data, etc. Encouraging bright students and assisting weak students. So these remain same for both the tier 1 and tier 2 students, because the important thing is that the institutes are there to improve the quality of the teaching and learning processes. Then moving on to the next part, that is quality of internal assessment question papers, assessment and evaluation. So institute should take initiative to ensure quality of in-sem question papers and assignments. Quality of internal question papers and assessments can be ensured setting the questions as per learning level specified by Bloom's taxonomy, as well as relevant to the COs. Probably some previous speakers might have covered about what is Bloom's taxonomy. I won't go into the details of what this Bloom's taxonomy is. An institute should use the scoring rubrics as assessment tool for evaluation. Then scoring rubrics should be shared with the students at the start of the semester for better understanding of what is exactly expected and how it will be assisted at the end of the semester. Now you will think that this may be part of the teaching learning process, but I thought that I should also discuss this part over here, is because whenever you are going to design a particular curriculum, these are the inputs which are very important for any person who is going to design the curriculum. So these points I have purposely taken over here. Okay. So the proofs which you require over here again is that if you are doing all these things, then documentation of process of internal question papers settings, model answer, evaluation process, documentation of validation question papers from CO, Bloom's learning level perspective, documentation of mapping, then assignment questions with CO mapping, sample assignment, evaluation should include comments, feedback, assignment questions should promote self-learning survey from multiple sources, etc. So these are certain proofs which you are supposed to keep if you are doing all this activities as part of the quality to maintain the quality of the internal question papers which you are taking for the students. Then we talk about using the scoring rubrics as an assignment tool. So there are three components within the rubrics, namely the first is the performance criteria. That is, it is going to talk about the aspects of the performance that will be assessed. Then the descriptors, the characteristics that are associated with each dimension. And then we have the scale or level of performance, a rating scale that defines students' mastery with each criteria. So if you look at this table carefully, we have taken example of the communication skills. Then the first column talks about the performance criteria. Then we have the different levels, whether it is unsatisfactory, developing, satisfactory, or exemplary. And then we have certain descriptors, that is whether it is 1, 2, 3, or 4. So next slide, the understanding will be much better when we move on to the next slide. Yeah. So this is an example of the scoring rubrics as an assessment tool. So if we look at this properly, I'll give some time, 2 minutes time. All the participants are requested to just go through it so that you understand how these rubrics are formed. So this is regarding rubrics for communication, where we are talking about the written and the oral skills of a student. So the performance criteria includes the written communication, then his presentation, where we have the visual aids and oral presentations, how he is using the visual aids, how his oral presentation is, and his body language. So we call them as the performance criteria. Then when we look at the scales, so what is the scale over here? We have proficient, whether he's proficient in all these criteria, whether he's acceptable, or whether he needs improvement of it. So in this way, you can prepare a scoring rubrics as an assessment tool. I'm again repeating that these things are not part of the curricular design, but these things are going to help when we are going to design the curriculum, that is especially when you are in the tier 1 system, and for the tier 2 it will be useful for all of you in maybe identifying the gaps, and then also it will be beneficial for you to maybe work upon it, giving certain inputs to your own university, where you can have certain things that you have assessed your students based on this rubrics. So the first example, I'll just again say. So when we talk about, I'll just read one row of it. I won't go into the details of it, so that when I'm reading, you can also just have a look at this particular slide. So I'm again repeating, this rubrics is to understand the communication of a particular student. We are going to assess both his written and oral communication skills. So the first column is about the performance criteria. We have taken 4 performance criteria. We have taken his written communication. Then we have taken his presentations, that is what type of visual aids he's using, how he's doing his oral presentation, and lastly his body language. So I'll read only the first row. So when we talk about the written communication, so when can we say he is proficient, that he is very good? So report is well organized and clearly written. The underlying logic is clearly articulated and easy to follow. Words are chosen that precisely express the intended meaning and support reader comprehension. Diagrams or analysis enhance and clarify presentation of ideas. Sentences are grammatically and free from spelling errors. So whatever I have written over here, these are called as the descriptors. So when he is very proficient, so these are the things what needs to be talked about. When it is acceptable, so we can say that here report is organized and clearly written for most of the part. In some areas, the logic or flow of the ideas is difficult to follow. Words are well chosen with some minor exceptions. Diagrams are consistent with the text. Sentences are mostly grammatically and only a few spelling errors are present, but they do not hinder the reader. Where we have the need improvement, where we are saying that report lacks an overall organization, reader has to make considerable effort to understand the underlying logic and flow of ideas, diagrams are absent, and so on and so forth, spelling errors and other things. So in this way, we can have the scoring rubrics as an assessment tool. I'm again repeating that this does not form the part, but it will surely assist when we are doing the when we in the tier 1 college, when we are doing some curriculum design, or for the tier 2 colleges where they are going to identify certain gaps for their. Then coming to the tier 2 quality of student projects. So institute should document the process. So identification of projects and allocation methodology, types and relevance of the project and their contribution towards attainment of POs, process for monitoring and evaluation, process to assess individual and team performance, quality of completed projects, working prototypes, evidences of paper published, awards received by students. So project classification table is given in this format in NBA. So project title, type of project, that is application, product, risk or review, factors considered, environment, safety, ethics, cost standards, then POs and PSOs. So when we are talking about the quality of the student project, these are the things which have been taken into consideration. The classification table has been given over here, where we are supposed to understand how the POs and PSOs are being satisfied. So as a proof, what are the things we require in this is process documentation, project monitoring document, copies of the students' project reports, certificates, project reports. So these are the documents which can be kept as proofs for the students' projects. Moving on to the next one. So initiatives related to the industry interaction. So program should include the initiatives related to industry supported laboratories. So even though you do not have the flexibility of your own structure or doing the syllabus, but as I mentioned that each institute can approach the industries and they can have certain laboratories being set up with certain industries. So we can have industry supported laboratories, then industry involvement in the program design and partial delivery and regular courses for the students, which I've already mentioned that each department or program can have their own department advisory body, which must include the persons or members from the industry. They must include their alumni, they must include members of the professional bodies, they must include their own students, they must include their senior teachers. So here we are talking about the same thing, that industry involvement in the program design and partial delivery and for any regular courses for students. Then impact analysis of industry institute interaction and actions taken thereof. So we are also supposed to have the analysis of the impact which the industry institute interaction is going to make, because usually what happens is that many times many activities are being carried out, but there is no analysis of all these activities. So what we are supposed to do is that for this particular thing is that whenever we are doing certain activities which we have identified as gaps to achieve our POs and PSOs, we must have a perfect record. We should have a perfect analysis and see to it that whether it is really creating certain impact on the students. Because at the end of the day, what is important is that whatever activity is being done, it must be the student centric and not teacher centric. So there should be always an impact analysis which should be made by the teachers who are involved in this process. So proofs which we can keep is that MOUs with the industry, then industry laboratories, if you are having supported something by the industry, then the documents for participation, revision of workshops, report on feedback suggested, received from industry, and the corresponding activities conducted. So the important thing is that whenever you are doing certain activities, because you have seen in almost the last 5 to 6 slides, everywhere I have put purposefully what are the proofs which you should maintain, because it has been observed that many teachers proactively do many activities, but they fail to maintain the records. Even and many a times it happens that even though they are maintaining the record, but they are not exactly knowing why they are maintaining this record. So it should be, the record should be maintained in such a way that all those records must be supportive for giving a justification for what work you are doing to add value to the education of the students. So ultimately, because when the NBA team is visiting your institutes, the thing is what they are observing is that what is the proactiveness that you are taking to see to it that on completion of the programs, whether the students have got certain skills being developed in them, whether there is certain value addition to it. And then if they observe that, okay, certain value addition is being observed, then they try to look at that what is the process that the institute or the department has adapted to achieve their program outcomes and program specific objectives. So these things are very important, because unless and until we maintain proper documentary evidences, it may not be useful to the department and to the institute as a whole. Then initiatives related to industry internship, summer training program should include the initiatives related to industrial training tools for students. Industrial internship, as I mentioned, that we can have this 2 weeks or even 1 month program. Then probably nowadays all the institutes are having the educational tools for the students being organized. It is almost now mandatory, or even in University of Pune, in the structure, in the courses itself, certain industrial visits are being made. I'll just give you example for the second year analog communication. The visit to Akashwani has been made compulsory. So such things can be made that even the tier two institutions where certain things are not there, as I mentioned, that they can identify these gaps and they can convey it to their board of studies chairman, where in the next corrections or maybe next modifications in the syllabus and structures, they can be able to do all these things, because they have this authority of modifications with them. Then impact analysis, I already talked about, of the industrial training and the student feedback on the initiatives. Activity table, let us see how this activity table is. So we can have a table like this: activity details, that is training, tour, then type of industry, then the relevant area of training, whether they have learned about testing, designing, marketing, R&D, whether it was planned or unplanned, then what are the objectives defined, then number of students. See, one thing all of you should remember is that while I'm also talking about the curriculum design, the important thing is this second last column, which has been over here, is objectives defined. Because whatever activity you are going to do, the objective must be well defined. And then once you define the objective, the outcome should be measurable. So these are the things which the teacher should keep in mind, that whether it is for a particular activity or whether it is when they are doing designing of the curriculum, it should be very clear in their mind that why am I doing this and how it is going to help the students finally. So these are the two important aspects which all the teachers must understand when they are designing their curriculums. Then again over here, certain proofs which you have to keep is the list is over here. So MOU with the industry, then industry laboratories, documentation of the participation, report on feedback, suggestions received from industry, corresponding activities. So for each activity which you are doing, these are some samples of the proofs which you can always maintain with you. So it becomes easy for you to justify the activities which you have done over the period. Okay. Then assessing the higher order abilities and professional skills. Moving on to this point. So assessing higher order abilities and professional skills. So the first important thing is that professional skills have emerged as important attributes of a graduate engineer. So this is the important thing. What everybody is looking at is whether a graduate student has gained certain professional skills. Then second is studies have shown that the industry employer around the world value these abilities more than the disciplinary knowledge. So we have observed that any industry who is going to recruit a particular student, he'll be finally interested in knowing what skill the student has with him. Because the same thing we have been talking when we are talking about this outcome based education, the industry are today looking in this aspect that a graduate student, whether he is conversant with certain things, whether he has gained certain knowledge, whether he has gained certain skills. So these are very important things that the industries around the world are looking at the abilities of the students rather than what degree they are having. Then this is again also reflected in the NBA graduate attributes, which we have already seen, is that there we have talked about the communication skills, the teamwork, the understanding of ethics and professionalism, understanding of global and societal context, lifelong learning, knowledge of contemporary issues. Then further higher order cognitive skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and making informed decisions are also crucial for graduate to succeed in the emerging world. Then, though the employers consider these professional skills and higher abilities as important, our students are weak in them. So, what finally all of us should agree is that, yeah, we believe that all these things must be there in the student. But here, yes, today the observation is that even though there are so many things being carried out, the students are still not up to the mark. And slowly we know that once the concept of accreditation is being known to the students also, because today what is happening is that only we as teachers, we are knowing why this accreditation is required, but the concept of why an institute or why a program needs to be accredited, and for this even the students are stakeholders or playing an important role in this, is not being told to the students, or the students are unaware about this. Because once the students know that they are a part of this accreditation process, surely the students are also going to get benefited from this. Because I believe that when we are going through this process, the process itself is such a sturdy process. I'll say that once any institute who undergoes any type of accreditation, whether it is a NBA accreditation or an NAC accreditation, you might have observed as teachers is that the very important thing is that you as teachers, you know what is your role, that what you are supposed to do as a teacher, what are your roles and duties as a teacher. And then second part is that even the students, if they are made aware about why the institution is going in for accreditation and how it will be beneficial, and at the end of the day how it is going to benefit them, then surely when the student and the teachers go hand in hand, naturally the results which all of us do want from the accreditation process can be achieved. Then moving on, next is one of the main obstacles in addressing these outcomes is the limitation of educational experience we create within our engineering program. So it is but natural that there is a limitation of educational experience. We know that in when we talk in as a whole of engineering education pan India, we know that there are many colleges. Some colleges are of the best quality, some are in the mid range, some require more improvements to be done, and there we know that the teachers are there, but there is again a limitation of their experience. So I feel that such attending such programs or visiting certain colleges will surely help the teachers who are working for this accreditation process. Then moving on to the next thing is that most of the coursework in our program are oriented towards the technical knowledge and skills, and the assessment is limited to those abilities. So it is very true that whatever now, but we have observed in the last 3 to 4 years is that many changes have been made because of this outcome education, and things have started improving in many of the universities. But more things needs to be improved. Then, however, acquiring the professional outcomes may not result simply from participation in a particular class or a set of classes. This is obvious. Then, rather, these outcomes are more often acquired or influenced through sources both in and outside the classroom. So, again, the same thing that when we are talking about these outcomes, they are more often acquired or influenced through the sources both in and outside the classrooms. So the student is going to play also a very important role when the institute or the department is going to go in for accreditation. So this is a very important thing because again I'm repeating that even though the curriculum design is not directly what I'm saying is not directly related, but indirectly all these things are very much related to the curriculum design, because unless and until the teacher knows how to correlate all these things, he won't be in a position to design a good curriculum. So that is why I thought that all these points should be mentioned. I know that there may be a repetition of this in the previous session, or maybe the presenter after may also discuss certain points, but I thought that these are of immense importance to all my fellow colleagues. Then assessing higher order abilities and professional skills. Again, the important thing is to address these challenges. Comprehensive reforms are needed in the way we design our curriculum, student learning experiences, and assessment of the outcomes. So this is almost, I'm ending my presentation. So just to mention, so we know that to address these challenges, we have to make certain reforms. We have to design our curriculum, student learning experience and assessment of the outcomes. So following are the few educational experiences that are recommended to teach and assess professional outcomes and higher order cognitive abilities. So these are few of the things which I have put over here while we were discussing. I have discussed many of them. So this is a list where we can have, I'm talking these things for the tier 2 colleges where certain things might not be there. All these things may be there in all the tier 1 colleges. But for the tier 2 colleges, this is a list where the maybe because when you are going to identify certain gaps, these may be the points which you may be again shortlisting. So you can have open-ended experimentations in the laboratories, which again does not require permission of your university. There is a flexibility. Then project-based learning modules, you can design your own project-based learning modules. Then MOOCs courses you can offer, because again, as I said, that's in some universities, yes, they have put this in the structure and syllabus, but again, where in certain universities MOOCs courses may not be there, but as a part of the additional learning, you can ask the students to undergo the MOOCs courses. Then co-curricular experiences. Co-curricular experiences are very, very important. Again, over here, even though it is not in your syllabus or structure, you can think of many activities where it will add value to the students. As I mentioned that I'm just talking in terms of the University of Pune. Now the syllabus has been modified. So in the first year, we have started with the project-based learning. Also, we have taken, as I talked about the soft skill, it has been included in the structure. So many things, many universities are doing. But if there are colleges or institutions where the universities are not proactively doing all these things, the institutions on their own can add value to their own institutions by carrying out these activities. Then mini and minor projects, again, you can have this, because nowadays Many of the colleges are hosting the technical fest. Even you can allow your students to participate in this tech fest, where the technical abilities, the critical thinking abilities, the logical abilities, the leadership qualities, many things are being explored by the students when they are participating in all this uh, exhibitions or tech fests. Then final year projects. Now, many a times it is not mandatory for the undergraduate students to write a paper. I'll just give you example of my institute. In my institute, since the last 10 years, we have been making the students write technical paper based on their project. So this is one of the skills which we are trying to develop in them. Writing a report is very difficult. Writing that too, after writing a paper based on the report, is again more difficult. But the students do exposure. So such things or such practices, even though they are not in your regular curricula, you can ask the students, which will surely add value to it. It can also help you in attaining your program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Then internship experiences, as I said, that certain universities may not be having, or the example of my own college, as I mentioned, that we are making it mandatory 1 month training program for the students going from third year to B. Then e-portfolios of the student works can be maintained. So these are few of the examples which I think can be of importance for those colleges who have not yet started preparing for the accreditation. Surely it can help you. Once again, I am repeating that the tier 2 colleges, that is the affiliated colleges, you have very limited flexibility, but it does not mean that you are not supposed to do anything and keep on creeping that we as an institute we cannot do anything. But there are a lot many activities which you as an affiliated institute can do. The table which I said, so you can identify the gaps, and you can try and overcome the gaps by doing all these activities. So I think I have come to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, you are most welcome. I just shall I switch on my video? If there are any questions, I'll answer the questions from the chat box. Can we take some questions, sir? Suhas sir. Suhas sir, can you hear my voice?
Ha, sir. Just now, thank you very much for your wonderful session. And
yes, sir,
we can have we can have a few questions. If somebody is interested, I will just call upon the yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Hello.
There are so many questions by participants.
Yes, yes.
I can give a chance for Uday Kumar Rajput.
I can take few questions, and maybe the other questions, if they are mailed to me, I can answer them also.
So Jadhav Kumar, Uday Kumar Rajput, I will make you unmute and you can ask the question. Uday Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can ask the question, Uday Kumar sir. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can ask the question, Uday Kumar, Dr. Uday Kumar sir.
Yes, sir. Please, you can ask the question.
I am working for the deemed university.
Yeah, you can ask the question, Uday Kumar sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm speaking.
Hello. So
no,
can you ask your question?
He is having some mic problem. Maybe Dilip Rathod sir. Anyway, I will read out few questions so that you can answer those questions directly. Vinay,
yes, yes.
Vinay sir, while designing in a curriculum, what is the ideal way of mapping CO and TO? Whether all COs of every course in every semesters are to be mapped with all POs.
So can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, while designing the curriculum, what is the ideal way of mapping CO PO? Whether all COs of every course in every semester are to be mapped with all POs?
The question is whether all the courses are to be mapped. The thing is that it is not possible. It will be a very clumsy thing. So when we are looking at the attainment, it is possible that you have to map certain things very strongly, certain can be moderate, and some can be very low. Hello? Hello?
हाँ बोला सर ऐकू येत आहे.
So, so it is not possible to map all the things. 100% mapping is not possible. So you have to identify it. Again, I am repeating that if you are a tier 1 institute, you have the flexibility of designing your own curriculum. So for that, let us say when you are designing your curriculum, you have to start first with what is the vision of your institute, what is the mission of your institute, then what are the program educational objectives you have set, what are your program outcomes, then your course outcomes. So you have to take into consideration that what is the importance, to which point you have to give importance. So some points will be strongly mapped, some may be moderately mapped, and some may be weakly mapped. So it is not possible that everything will be mapped everywhere. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay, sir. हाँ बोला.
Yes. Next.
Sir,
next question.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
YouTuber, on YouTube there is a question.
Yes, sir.
Is it necessary that the MOU will be done on 100 to 500 stamp papers?
So now what has been there since the last 6 months for NAC, they have made it mandatory. I think even NBA might be following the same thing. Yeah, it has been made for NAC, at least I know they have made it mandatory. So whichever stamp paper you get, maybe 100 or 500, it's okay. You have to make it on that. Yeah.
Okay, another question. For diploma MSBT sets, syllabus by conducting industry interaction, etc. So can we show a gap analysis in diploma curriculum? For industry interaction.
Yes.
So can we show a gap in the syllabus?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Because say, as I said that for even the diploma courses, they only for the autonomous, they have the flexibility of doing their things. But if it is not an autonomous institute, naturally what I said is that if they have identified certain gaps in that industry, they can always put it forward to their MSBT where the corrections can be made, and it will be useful to the other colleges also. So it is always possible.
Okay, what is your suggestions for affiliated two-tier colleges about bridging the gap in curriculum as per CO and standard PO mapping? Miss, what is your suggestion about affiliated tier 2 colleges?
Tier 2. My more emphasis was only on the tier 2 colleges. My last slide mentioned the same thing. What I said that the tier 2 colleges, what they have to do is, I had shown a slide where they have to first differentiate all their courses. They have to identify which all the 12 POs and 2 identify the gap, and then depending upon the gap, they are supposed to carry out certain activities. And my last slide showed that there were certain activities which that particular institute can carry out. Let us say I can give this example that let us talk about the lifelong learning skill. It is possible that in my syllabus, none of the syllabus, there may be certain thing related to lifelong learning skill, or for that matter, ethics. So what I can do is I can identify these things, convey it, and try to see how we can do certain activities based on it. Yes, sir. Next.
Sir, I think most of the questions we covered it, and hopefully rest of the questions will soon convey you.
Yeah, sure. You
And
can mail them. Mail
yeah,
to me. I can
yeah,
answer them individually, sir. No problem.
yeah. And anyway, I will share your information also. And we
Yes, sir.
have
Yes.
now
You can give
another
them my
guest
mail
with
ID.
us. So
Yes.
thank you very much, sir. Having a
Yes,
very
sir.
wonderful
Thank you. Thank
session
you once
with
again.
us.
Thank you to all the participants and
Yeah,
thank you to all the organizing committee for giving this opportunity to just share my experiences of what I had done till my entire this 25 years of experience. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, sir. Now we have a guest, Prasad Krishna, sir. Can you see? Can you hear Prasad, sir?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah. So I welcome you. We'll continue the next session, and I will first
So,
of all
shall
introduce. Yeah, I will first of all introduce about Krishna Prasad, sir. He done his PhD from University of Michigan, USA. Done his BTech, MTech from IIT Madras and BTech from NIT Surathkal. Currently working as a professor, head, and TQIP coordinator in NIT Surathkal. One more important thing about to mention about Prasad Krishna sir, he's a mentor of our institute. He always used to give us a guidance about how to organize the activities into our institute, also how to create a more interaction with outside world and all the stuff. He is continuously guiding us, and he's having more than 60 to 70 publications, and he has guided so many faculties for his PhD, MTech, and UG, PG, all the programs. And now I request Prasad sir to start his session.
Yeah. I think still I am seeing Pradeep.
Yeah, I change your privilege to the presenter. You can get a now
Okay.
privilege. You can show up your screen if you want.
Take a minute. Is the screen visible?
I change the role to the presenter.
Wait a minute.
Okay, yours operating system is Mac. No?
Yeah, but it's a word. Word PPT.
Can I show you a presentation from my computer?
Yeah.
Just now we had a presentation by PP Mane sir, and Professor Dr. Prasad Krishna is going to give a presentation on outcome-based teaching learning process. Can you share now? We can see your screen, sir.
Huh?
We can see your screen. There is no problem in it.
Are you able to see?
Yes, I can see. Screen.
Okay, then I will take presentation. Is that fine?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so shall I start now?
Yeah, you can start, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Deshmukh, for this great opportunity. And at the outset, I would like to wish everybody a very happy International Nurses Day. This is a great day to commemorate the selfless service of Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamb. And in this peculiar situation, we are all, they are our great nurses, are the COVID warriors. And let us remember for their selfless service and wish them the very best. Now, before I start my topic, I would like all my fellow faculty colleagues to do a small exercise, which I want to call it as centering. You are all, listening to me, and I just want you to gently close your eyes. I want you to relax. As I tell these few words, please listen to these and you must feel the condition. Gently close your eyes and relax the entire body from head to foot. Imagine that your entire body is relaxed. No tensions, nothing. You are completely relaxed. If there is any tension, let it go away. Let it leave your body. Breathe normally. Gently bring your attention to your heart. Just think of any beautiful person, your favorite deity, or whatever the most beautiful, loving thing in your life. Think over that in your heart. Hold on to that thought. Ignore all other thoughts. Tune your heart to the presence of that great person or that beautiful event. Thank you, dear ones. I used to start my class with this a small 5 minutes exercise, what I call it as centering. Centering means often we are seeing, we are listening, but we are not at this present moment. Unfortunately, our mind is fickle-minded. It is chanchal chit. It keeps wandering here and there. And this is the biggest problem we as teachers face. There's a lot of attention deficit. We especially in a huge classroom of 80 plus, we all now have to engage such a huge classroom. So once a small exercise to bring their awareness to the present moment. I find this to be a very useful tool. This is because I personally practice. My day start with a 1 hour of meditation, and I practice this. It has nothing to do with any religion. It's a purely a spiritual thing. I start my day with heartfulness meditation. Some of you may be aware of, and I just bring the presence of divinity in the heart, and then attune to that divine presence. And this has really helped me right from my PhD days in US until now. And this is really helping me in getting me connected, getting me engaged with my students. And that is the most important thing. You may talk about all this experiential learning, so many project-based assessment, all this blah, 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 which we have borrowed from the white man. As if these poor Indians, we don't know how to teach. We don't know how to learn. This is ridiculous that we Indians, now we have forgotten our great traditions, and now you have to go back to what this white man says. Suddenly, there is this, they talk about outcomes-based education, outcome-based curriculum, outcome-based teaching learning process, outcome-based assessment, and so on. This is very, very unfortunate. But I will give a totally different perspective. I am not going to take you an example of a particular course and how to do that. We are all good at that. Our great country is famous for great teachers. Even in the modern century, we had great philosophers and teachers like Sarvepalli Radhakrishna and Rabindranath Tagore. And such is the legacy of this great country. But let us see, somewhere we have missed something. I will move on to my presentation. I will just give you an introduction, just touching upon some of the current scenario, and then we move on to, you can't say that past is history. Can we get some wisdom from this ancient tradition? And in between, we had this in the again subsequent wisdom from the great scholars, great teachers of this country. In fact, today we are talking about QS ranking, Times Higher Education ranking, and so on. And we are worried. The politicians are worried. None of the Indian institutions are positions. Then, if there were the Quaker Simon's ranking, those universities which I'm talking in the 5th century, they would be in the forefront. But Indians never, our system is like that. We never, patented these things, and we had our own humble way of teaching, learning. Then I will just touch upon the present, what we are doing in all of our institutions and universities. And then how can we reorient our teaching learning process, to make it outcome based. And then I come back to the challenges. There are many, many challenges in this country of billions. And then what is the way forward? Now, all of us know how we have been, taken away from our glorious tradition because of these foreign invasions. It is not just, I'm not telling just the British, but even the Greek, the Europe, the Portuguese, the French, all this, right from the Persian influence, the Mughals, the Turkish, and so on. And then we have been totally separated from the great wisdom of our seers, the great rishis. And what is the result? We have moved from holistic to fragmented, polarized system. We had great system, that was, I feel, the best outcome-based model. I always used to, whenever I give a talk, I used to tell, there is an example of the outcome-based assessment in Mahabharat when Dronacharya, the teacher, in testing his students for archery, we all know how the Arjuna outsmarted all the Pandavas. And what kind of question, what kind of test the Acharya Drona placed there? It was not like, right, draw a beautiful figure of the bow and the arrow and, label all the parts or, define archery. Nothing of that. In fact, it was the complex problem what the graduate engineers are supposed to solve. we talk about the and one of the most important for engineers is the problem solving skills and the problems which we are supposed to give to our learner, the students, is complex problem. Complex means there are no ready-made solution. This is not in a textbook kind of just plug in the values, just the voltage and current and you find the resistance, not that kind of. For us, the graduate engineer means he should have this complex problem solving. But unfortunately, we have to ask this question, are we asking complex problem like Dronacharya did? That was never taught to them, that kind of exercise in aiming at the fish which is moving in the tank. And then that was only one guy could succeed. That was the real warrior Arjuna. And in the profession, Arjuna showed that he is indeed. And so that outcomes are already used in his profession also as a Kshatriya. In our, unfortunately, we have too much of population, too much demand. We need more universities, more institutions. In spite of all our efforts, the access, equity, quality, excellence, these are always the perennial problems of Indian higher education. Whatever efforts we have taken, still we are way behind in terms of the gross enrollment ratio. And we have our own casteism. Casteism, I mean casteism in the higher education sector. We treat certain institutions as the Brahmins and many are Shudras. And we decide like that. Everything is accordingly given. Some are given. But if you look at, fortunately, there are no such stigmas in the Western world. Everybody is treated that part. Everybody is gauged by the same scale. And we have, of course, the usual problem of gender bias, social stigmas, religious influences. We never understand the difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality has nothing to do with gods and goddesses. It is only to go to understand the absolute, which is always within us. So, and then the influence of religion is it percolates most of the institutions. And what we do in the campus is also colored by the religion we belong. This is another serious problem in the Indian context. Now, all of you know that lack of transparency, accountability, lack of the most important, I feel, we lack leaders like Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan and so on. Now, let's take what happened in talking about the period of the Vedic period, the period where our great rishis, they were called Trikala Jnanis. Trikala means they knew the past, present, and future. They learned from their experiences. They taught from their experience only. And they could also find out because of their clairvoyance, intuition, they could, treat the learners, equip them for what is going to happen in the future, not only from the past experience, from the present moment to the future directions they could give. And in that system, one becomes knowledge itself. There is a beautiful mergence, the Layavastha of the knower, knowledge, and the knowing. It is like the lover, beloved, and the loving becomes one. Those were the great jnanis. And in Gurukul, all of us know it is the best example of outcome based. And we are prepared for life, for our ennoblement, for our emancipation. It was totally holistic and it prepared us for life. We all know in Santipani's ashram how Krishna and Sudama, they were asked to bring, firewood for the mother, and totally unknown terrain, no Google map, no GPS. They have to find their way out. And like that, many things, cooking and taking care of. So entire life, education for life. And we have many such example of how entire Rama was mentored by the great gurus, where the king has no say. Dasharatha has to simply witness. Entire thing is done by these great seers, Vasishta, Vishwamitra. Even the marriage, everything is performed by the guru. So that was the Guru Sakshat Parabrahma tradition. And it was not just dumping information, it is knowledge generation. Knowledge into later on, it should evolve, refine into a wisdom, and then finally to intuition. And ultimate, the purpose of all this knowledge, jnanam brahmedi sakshat, the final culmination into the realization of the self. Now, in between, between this modern time where the British influence and so on, we can boast of great centers of learning be treated as a formal university because they had their own independent teachers. There was no formal accommodation for hostels or quarters for the faculty, but they did have very flexible. Depending on the pace of the learner, one could keep on accumulating knowledge from these great people. And I found that even Chanakya wrote Arthashastra, economics treatise, and then the great our Ayurvedic and the Charaka Samhita, all these were in those Takshashila, which is later on the Greek, called it Takshila. And then they had, somebody enters at the age of 16 to learn the Vedas, all the martial arts, 18 arts, because those days that was a condition. There are a lot of wildlife and so on. Then there is medicine, school of law, military schools, and so on. Subsequently, we had the beautiful example of the 5th century, the one of the oldest international residential university in the world. Maybe that was the oldest, and it students and 2,000 teachers, monks were there, those students, and it had a legacy of 600 years. And the kind of subjects it was taught. Now, I want to emphasize here, we don't have such an ambience in any of our mono-faculty institutions. This is the biggest problem. This is, I feel, the biggest problem. We are not able to bring the complete the potential of our students because we don't have such multis. We don't have this transdisciplinary environment where students can study astronomy, theology, medicine, philosophy, or whatnot. Things are changing. I'll come back to that. And there were faculty and students from many of the Far East, many countries, and Greece, and no fixed hours. Anytime, even midnight, there are debates and discussion. Learning at any time, anywhere. Contemplative pedagogy. Today, the Western world is lot of, you can see, if you type the word in Google, contemplative pedagogy, surprisingly, you will see many institutions they have introduced, and there are many centers studies, centers for contemplative practices based on the mindful practices from the Buddhism. And there are professorial chairs, fellowship, summer internship in these things. There are many centers of teaching learning who are introducing contemplative, reflective learning, critical thinking, and that is the way we learned in our country. It is very unfortunate that now, one day, that may be again imported like this OBE. Collaborative learning, that is how in groups these monks learn in those great Nalanda University. And the guru, we can question the guru. It is not like that, it will be treated as an insult or punishment. No, you can ask any question. You can even challenge the guru, and the gurus were great people who will, if he cannot answer, he will send you to another great guru And you know the story of Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya, after certain learning, the Guru will say, now you have been prepared. Now you go to the next Guru. So those were and then you step up your knowledge level. And once you are prepared, you go to the next level. Now, today, what is that? We are talking about outcome-based education. All that is fine, but still one has to think, is it not? We are, a credit-based semester system in most of our engineering colleges. We are in a hurry to complete this syllabus. All teachers are under tremendous pressure. We have to earn our salary. We have so many ifs and buts. It is mostly teacher directed, lecture based. Maybe sometimes somebody jokingly told, if there is no power, no PowerPoint. And it is all driven by the contents. Mostly students are bothered about their CGPA, that is a grade point average, because that gets them into placements. They can, either cut off by the industries, also look for the grade point. It's lot ambitions. Right from they come from the quota classes or the coaching classes, when they enter these elite schools of learning, they have the ambition. I should get into Amazon or I don't know, Walmart. This must be my package. That is ambition driven. We don't find people who have aspiration contrary to ambition. And education is for employment today. Look at our laboratory experience. The exercises what we give are cookbook, I would say, not at all authentic. And often it is copied from our seniors. This all will lead to poor retention of understanding. Lot of gap, lot of gap between theory and practice, and what the industry is giving feedback, other employers. And it is very unfortunate. I know I was the member secretary of the National Board of Accreditation in 2005 to 8. And I am proud to say that I was instrumental in getting Washington Accord membership, the provisional membership we received during my tenure. And I feel sorry because we were forced. It was mandatory for us to move into a permanent membership to switch over to outcome-based accreditation. And that is where it started in this country. All this, people here and there talking about outcomes. Now, is it still the same? Are we preparing all this just to get accreditation, whether it is, I don't know, NAC or NBA or other thing, or get some ranking? Is it? Or whether OB has become a cultural framework of that institution or the campus? Now, many reputed institutions, they should have been, in the forefront in developing innovative pedagogy in our engineering education. In our CBSE, we have many revisions have happened. Thanks to the initiative of the government, we have excellent curriculum which promotes higher order thinking skills and not the rote learning. Lot of changes have happened. We all know our children or grandchildren, what kind of the continuous assessment, comprehensive evaluation they undergo. Unfortunately, there is no education, in technical education, unlike the B.Ed program for the liberal arts and science. And if you look at the Western, the great universities, they have a full-fledged center for teaching learning where these great teachers, they took the initiative to bringing innovative practices in the way we teach engineering courses, be it be in any discipline. And there is lot of knowledge sharing from the humanities, the medicine, law, and then we could fine-tune the pedagogy for a deep learning experience in the classroom and then beyond that. Today, what happens, even if you do all this, even if some great teacher, a noble teacher has innovative teaching practices, will she or he be rewarded by the present system, the point system? Will he get promotion? I can tell you this is the same problem. Even if you look at the articles in journals of education, transformative education, or there are many journals, you can have a look at them. The great teachers who came out with this innovative teaching practices seldom got promoted, because the science and engineering education, the emphasis is on research, research in our own domains, that is important, consultancy, and teaching is often in the back. But I am really happy when I listen to these kind of workshop, when I travel across the country during my tenure 3 years in Delhi. I find that there are many good things happening in the private sector, and I must congratulate those great leaders, the vice chancellors, the principals, directors of all your institutions for embracing. Some of you, at least, could embrace what I'm talking about, the culture of OBE, and not for the NBA or I don't know, NAC or something. And now you look at this. Do we have, I told you why we are not able to get that kind of the world university ranking, primarily because of we don't give the transdisciplinary learning environment. We are all in our own compartments. Electrical may not even talk to electronics. And thanks to AICTE and many of the technical, we have n number of branches, specializations, too much of too much. It is like, somebody is specialized for the 8th vertebra, a specialist. We lose the whole picture. It is a story like the blind man who has seen who describes the elephant. So we miss the whole picture. And now, when you revise, what should be a good balance? We need to have extracurricular. We have to have a wholesome person development, not just, we have to hone the professional, technical, managerial, social, environmental, entrepreneurial skills of our students. And that is all the skills are important for their life. And then how much curriculum, which is already squeezed too much with, credits. How do we give balance to all this? Co-curricular, in our own professional association, we have to do activities. We should know what is the currency of my profession of electrical or mechanical engineering and so on. Curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular balancing is a great challenge when we design a outcome-based curriculum. Now, I have here given some reorientation from what I was telling, the typical teacher-centric to a learner-centric. That is where it is not important what we teach. What is important is what the students learn, what they can demonstrate in their profession or in their life. And now, the outcome-based curriculum, the most important part is it aligned with the institution, vision and mission? And seldom it is not. We are all, I should not say cut and paste is going on. Even the vision, all this, without involving the real players. Did the management, the board of governors, really sat over there and came out with the vision and mission in the context of institution is located, aligning with the national objectives, global perspectives, and they role connecting with the neighborhood of that particular campus. Such a vision and mission should have been properly deliberated with all the stakeholders. Just, these are the stakeholders in our documents we know. That should have been done. But all stakeholders you are writing, but did the governors, the chairman, and the founders took part in this? No. To my understanding of 3 years, nothing happens. Most of I'm very sorry to say, leaders, the leadership of this academic institution, what are these outcomes? I'm able to give us a sensible answer. Seldom they understand, is it really necessary? And understand, this is a culture, this is a must for our graduates, this is a must for the entire community. I don't think all this we are doing just to fill SAR, get the accreditation, get more intake, and you move on in your ranking. Now, well-defined outcomes are also not there. What have we done in writing the outcome? We cut and paste from other universities, thanks to the internet. Do we really see some of the assessment strategies may not suit for the Indian population? Now, critically reflect on, this is the most important. We are all teachers. We teach, we have a curriculum, we have courses, we have syllabus given by the university, or our own we have made, and now we are teaching. Did we ever reflect on what are we doing? Did we ask this question, why am I teaching this in this particular way? Are my students learning? I don't think we have done this critical reflection on what, why, and how. Unless we do that, at least this is the time the COVID is given us, the lot of time for introspection and reflection. I feel whatever courses we are teaching, please look at, is this the way? Is this the way I should do it? Or is there a better way? Or will it bring a different learning experience to the students? Can I get that a transformative learning? Can I do that a transformative learning in the sense, whatever the interpretation I am giving, the students will question that. Students will come out with a totally different, a new interpretation, or maybe a renewed interpretation. And am I giving that space in my classroom or beyond the classroom, especially in a residential campus? The great Trigalachyanis, I talk about the seers and the saints of this country, all the great gurus talk from their experience. When you teach from our experience, it goes deep into the core of the heart. It happens. The best communication is no communication at all. You just sit across the person, everything gets transmitted from heart to heart. That is what the gurus did. The best form of communication is no communication. Similarly, I would say the best form of teaching is no teaching at all. It is like, I have written at the end of my lecture, who is a great salesman? It is not somebody who is selling volumes and volume. A great salesman is somebody who does not even sell. He makes others to buy his product. He makes others to buy his product. In the same way, our role as teachers, don't be in a hurry to complete 45 hours, 3 credits. I have to run here and there, do all this in SEM, NSEM, middle SEM, what critical, all this, blah, blah, all the statistics, mark which CO1, CO2, and do all the jugglery, statistics, there are software, it will do all manipulation and make sure that 70% and above gets into the that the outcomes are achieved. And this will not. Where there learning outcomes are reflected in their practice. Now, learner-centric inquiry-guided learning. There is not much time. There are enough textbooks. I'm really happy to see. Recently, I came across a textbook by Douglas, who has written on the process-oriented guided inquiry learning. Vogel, you can, if you type vogel.org, you will know. That is a beautiful pedagogy. Of course, Douglas' book is on material science and engineering. Excellent way of, learning. The teacher is only in the background. The problems are posed, exercises are given, and students learn themselves. And whenever there is requirement, the teacher interferes in between. So that is what we are supposed to do. Like I'm telling the salesman, we have to only inspire them. We have to be a facilitator. And whereas what we are doing, we are in a hurry to complete this the syllabus. So meaningful engagement, and there is, we did that. When you look at the affection, the Guru Mata, and the kind of food they enjoyed in the ashrams and Gurukul, those care ethics of care. Now, many people in the Western world are talking about care ethics. Their teacher should care. Then only there will be proper learning. There will be proper engagement with the students. Now, the challenge is when you have a class of 80 plus, how do we engage with the students? Do we know their name also? Do we know their backgrounds when it is 80 plus? And some case, I don't know, maybe 200 plus. And there are enough scope for problem-based learning. Just now, I was listening to Professor Pradeep Manis. He has given, even the curriculum is given by somebody, you have enough scope for the experiential learning, project-based assessment. Now, the problem-based learning, please remember, any course we can do that, problem-based learning. It need not be only the quantitative analytical courses. And please share a story. We enjoyed Amar Chitra Katha. All of us enjoy, even at this age, if we are given Amar Chitra Katha, even in a train, we may read, feel like reading. Beautiful pictorial representation. It's a beautiful graphic novel. And how simple language, those great characters from various scriptures and cultures, how they depicted. Are we sharing a humor? Are we sharing some stories? Are we connecting them to our own life experience? That is the way we engage meaningfully with our students. Are we giving them collaborative work? Are we giving them transformative learning, which I was talking earlier? Now, we should not feel that what those, during the Gurukul and all these are rubbish. We cannot even, today the situation is different. We are in a new century. It's all about digital world. These things are not practicable. Please come out of that. Today, I'm happy. Most of the developed nations are having centers for contemplative pedagogy. Please give that, let the student find the answer. You give the problem, let them meditate over that. Give them the stillness, the quietness. One day they may not get the solution. They post the problem in their heart. And one day there is some moment like the Archimedes. All the discoveries of the science came by accident through this contemplation only. Now, now we come to the challenges. I have already spoken. We are bothered about OBE, all the teaching learning, just to fill up the SAR. Now, somebody was telling, if I want to map for all the CEOs, this lot of jugglery, lot of work. So in many places, software, lot of statistics. Finally, you have to get the bar when the assessors come. Now, most of the time, this is the problem. The outcomes are cut and paste. You have never, ever, depending on the current needs of the industries, employers, societal needs, the countries, then goals, there are national, international objectives and goals. Is it in tune with that? It has to change. It has to be modified, reviewed, re-looked into. And unfortunately, unlike the ASME, ASCE, IEEE, and those great professional bodies in engineering and science and computing science, ACM and so on, our professional bodies are seldom involved in this outcome-based. Have they defined the program outcome, say mechanical engineering, like the ASME, depending on the particular profession? A lot of things have happened. The Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, cloud computing, and whether they have reviewed the program outcome. Who has to do that? Not the profession. Finally, the graduates are entering into this chosen profession. So the professional bodies like the IEEE, ASME, they are doing a great job. Now, are they practicing engineers? Now, unfortunately, I was also part of this great mistake. We take the precious time of the great teachers, and we are always thankful to them, from the reputed institution to assess these programs for accreditation. Unfortunately, most of us, we have not connected with what is the practice of the industry. Some of us teach the same course for several years. We don't know what has happened, is looking forward. And in the ABET, I know in US, they have, because I personally used to discuss with the ABET in getting our Washington Accord done. So, and I also went to Washington to make presentation. I used to discuss with them, and I find that in their assessment, seldom the academicians participate in the assessment. It's all done by the working professional, the practicing engineer. So they know what to look for in the teaching learning process. Whether the teaching learning process is adequate to meet the demands of those professions. So that they are the best judges than academicians like us. And maybe a mix of that may be a good thing. Both academician, but there should be somebody who is a practicing engineer who is, adept in the modern practices of that particular profession. Now, the biggest challenge, I know I was the advisor and I have seen in our thing, I don't know about, no, even for private, it is the same. How policies, whether there is education policy, that policy, whatever, whether you need this or that, how it should be done, how it should be promoted, who decides that? Are we deciding? In the developed nation, The professor or the teacher is the final word, even in the court of law. The professor's statement is the final. Here, it will never be. It is the legacy of the British bureaucracy is still engulfing our policies and procedures in education. And seldom the real final players are taken into account. We, the academicians, have no say. And often, some of you have to deal with a curriculum where your inputs were never taken. How difficult it would be to implement in the real spirit of OBE. How do you imbibe the culture of OBE if you were never part of this? You know, when Abbott came out with the A2K criteria, it took several years, several discussions, several universities, several academicians, professionals, practicing engineers deliberated at length and breadth of the country before they came out to A2K criteria, the graduate outcomes, and they keep modifying that. This is true with other professional bodies and accreditation agencies in other countries too. Now, there is one challenge now coming. As seniors, we have to do research and consultancy, lot of budgetary cuts. We have problem. Limited. I have to earn my salary. I have to do research and consultancy. I have to be, current with my profession. I have to attend, participate, engage, network with eminent professionals from my domain. Continuing education, I have to do administrative. I was earlier the former dean. How much time I know when I was dean, I could give to my students, my research scholars. We cannot do justice. Now, all this, but which one will help you to get you the next level promotion? Still, I doubt whether we are rewarding innovation. If somebody comes out with that, some awards are going on here and there. That's all. Namke Vaste, Best Teacher Award. Most of the time, I don't know how these awards are decided. Now, we still have, even I do not agree to have even this categorization of institution. Somebody is doing can do research. Let us not curtail the potential the research. It is inherent in our gene. The humanity can do wonderful things. And we, when a child touches some, we don't allow them. Sometimes they break open and learn things. The research, the acumen, the research potential is always there. This is where our education system is just going, adding degrees right from kindergarten to PhD without knowing what is the ultimate goal. So, and then we start casteism, tier 1, I don't know, tier 2, and then these so-called institutions. There's institutions of national importance. They don't need to do anything. There may not be proper toilets. There may not be, when the committee comes, oh, this is a problem. They are government institutions. Can we afford to have this bias? Everybody, like in the Western world, should be gauged with the same scale, same benchmark. Everybody has to compete, and everybody has constraints. All are these great teachers, and their morale is affected if we compromise just because it is a public funded university. Oh, inko to ye chalega. They cannot do something better. Why do we compromise the quality? And this FDP is on excellence. Now, beyond excellence is very difficult, my dear colleagues. Excellence itself is a process. It's an evolutionary process. You can't bring excellence in one fine day by adopting all these OBE and suddenly you produce excellent graduates. No, it has to come by a time and it has to evolve. It is an evolutionary process. And then you think of going beyond excellence. I'm happy the public institutions are far behind in this, but the private ones, and many of you should be appreciated for the efforts you have taken in bringing the culture of OBE among your communities. Now, I would say, now what is the way forward? Before I close my talk, the first thing is to get on to the leadership. Now I want to take up, when I talk about a culture of OBE, what is that culture? The culture means, if you look at, there are 6 aspects which define a cultural framework. According to Tierney, those 6 aspects are, the most important thing is the organization or our institution's mission. That should be one part of the culture. Then comes the how we share the information among the faculty, staff, and students. How we have the socialization of its members, all faculty, staff, student, administrator, all so on. And then comes the leadership, then comes the strategy. Unfortunately, I would say the most important, the missing link in OBE framework is, in our case, the strategic plan or the mission and the leadership, most important, seldom appreciate, not even acknowledges the importance of OBE in producing graduates which will meet those outcomes defined by the International Engineering Alliance. This is not, the only for the Indian graduates or the German graduates or the Korean or the Chinese. It is for the entire graduate engineers across the globe. And we cannot have our own graduate outcome. This is for all, except for contextually, we can, for our own environmental changes we can make. But the leadership, I was talking, the governors of the institutions should first of all appreciate, acknowledge, then only it will percolate till the lower strata of the campus. Now, there is a good way, I will tell you. You can, the best way, there are some great teachers in all our institutions. Why not we use them? Why not they mentor, especially the juniors when they join our institution? Let us not have an ego. Let us keep our hearts open. Those great teachers. I'm sure every institution, it is not necessary to be specific to that particular domain. There are a lot of skill they have, and we can learn whether they teach control system or machine design. We can still learn and sit and learn with them, and they have to take up this mentoring, this junior academic. So this is a great way. I would say, please try to implement if you have the authority to do that in your institution. And we have seen that students learn better from their own peers. So peer tutoring, don't give everything in the classroom. Let them learn from their peers. Because, our Indian tradition is learning happens from all around, not just in the classroom. Now, rewards and recognition must, I would say. Why should somebody come out with innovative pedagogy? Especially in our engineering education, we have enough of it in arts and science. It is only if you reward, give appreciations, and due promotion to those great faculty members and who are great teachers. And suppose you say teaching has no marks. it is always taken back, then why all this outcome-based education, teaching, learning, and so on? Now, one way to come out of that is, some of the institutions, I'm happy, under the Government of India scheme, they have started a Center for Teaching Learning. Where I studied, University of Michigan, or I'm sure many of the universities in the West or in the East, they have a full-fledged Center for Learning and Teaching. This is a great place where we experiment with new pedagogy. Then we research, we get the feedback. Lot of research should be done and see what particular method, whether problem-based learning, transformative learning, reflective learning, how to bring critical thinking, what are the different ways, how to bring in creativity in my teaching. There are various ways, and that continuous research in those centers, and that should be established, and the teachers who are really good at that, Center for Teaching Learning. And this is another way, in the US, I know if you want to take up teaching, when you are a research scholar, when you are a graduate student or research assistant, you have to take up the course from that. You have to learn from the American Society of Engineering Education, and then you will be getting lots of inputs from that center so that you can easily become great teachers when you are given such teaching assignments. Another thing I want to say, that we talk about in SAR continuous quality improvement, audit, and so on. But do we have a really working? It should not work. The quality assurance cells, you have all internal quality assurance cells, thanks to the recommendations of the UGC and AICTE, all that. Just for Namke Vaste, somebody is in charge, and once in a while, and especially when the accreditation it is due, we are all jump into action. That should not. It should be an ongoing process of periodic reviews, audit, not internal alone. The external QA process is very important. Somebody else, outsider, should say how we are doing. The practicing engineers, the community, others should say how we are doing. And that we can get thanks to so many ranking surveys, participate, and one among that is our NBA NAC exercise. But there should be, and we have such effective feedback. We only have course feedback, the teacher feedback, and we just file it, prepare some analysis for filling the SAR. There it is. So I am not talking, I'm talking much beyond. These surveys will finally help you to refine your outcome, refine your program educational objectives, and so on. Now, I am happy the mono faculty thing is going away. Thanks to the National Education Policy, we are now all, only faculty of engineering. That is where we don't have a real joy of learning. I cannot take a gastronomy or do a drama or, in liberal arts. So that is one biggest students are facing. But I hope in the long run, we will be able to have this transdisciplinary environment. That is the way for any quantum reflective learning. Not just we learn from our own faculty of engineering, we should learn from other, because that is life is about that. Then only there will be a holistic learning for life. And I'm sure the education policy has already addressed that. In conclusion, I want to tell you, let us not stop learning. We all know the ancient wisdom, maybe Mahatma Ji quoted. Of course, we have to live as if we are, but learning never ends. We have to learn, all of us, as we are going to live forever. Continue learning. And you know, the lifelong learning is an important attribute for graduate. So let us not teach. I was telling the case of a good salesman. Let us not sell. Let others make others to buy our product. Let us not teach, but let us inspire our students to become lifelong learners. Joy of learning and let them learn for life. Thank you, my dear fellow faculty colleagues, and it has been a great opportunity, and I am grateful to the coordinators, Professor Suhas Deshmukh, who just told me yesterday that I should give a talk. So I was just, based on my experience for so many years, I could just think of, but it's a totally different perspective. Uh, um, I'm sorry. So thank you. If I have hurt anybody's feelings, if I have hurt anybody's feeling, I sincerely apologize. It was not at all intentional. And I really appreciate everybody's efforts and let us do a great job. Thank you for your kind attention. You can always email me or WhatsApp to this number. Thank you. Over to Deshmukh.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Can we have a few questions? Sir, some participants have few questions. Can we go for question answers? Krishna sir,
Please,
can you
please.
hear me?
Yeah, I am able to hear.
So I will ask one first. My question was, yeah, my question is something different. Actually, when we are teaching, we are creating so much of data, like creating an attendance of the student. We are creating their mark sheets, their entire progress of the entire process, means from first year to final year. But during this, it happens to be most of the time. So we are only concentrating on the process. We are not thinking how much we gave to the student. Means actual learning is not happening. Actually, outcome-based education means we are creating a certain outcome, but most of the time, faculties, teachers are so much busy in kind of creating a documentation rather than concentrating or giving the
Sure.
students
Yeah,
whatever they want to learn for it.
extremely.
So
You are extremely correct. Yeah.
can we do something onto this?
Now, if I tell, don't teach everything. Today our youngsters, in my case, our grandchildren, you look at the wisdom of them, not like us. They can even, a small kid know how to connect to a Zoom meeting or all that. So let us
Yeah,
leave
yeah.
for them to learn themselves. Even they will learn from their peers. Let's not think that everything happens in this contact hours of whatever, 45 hours for a 3 credit course, and there we are mistaken. And but unfortunately, the your bosses may not agree. That is a problem. The bosses, who is watching you, the teachers have no freedom, and sometimes in the feedback, students are not happy. They want everything. It is also the other kind of, they want everything ready-made. They want even the entire notes to be given right from the beginning. They'll be happy, then they won't even come to the class if everything is given as in the capsule form. That's not the way. You have to bring wonder in the classroom. You have to bring challenges. Something like Socraterian methods. You always question. Bring in new questions every day. Put a question and let them ponder over it. And therefore, there are two things. I may be teaching the same course several years, but every time I should be able to bring in a new, because the other side is different, isn't it? Our students are different every year. So we should bring in that kind of joy, and connect with some stories which they may like, and then, bring their attention somewhere and don't teach everything. That's what. In I just want to give an example. Suppose in a typical American education system, the entire textbook will be covered. Can you imagine? The entire textbook is written by, if you read the textbook, that is written for one particular semester course, depending on the level, at the graduate level or at the bachelor level. Now, the entire courses, how they are able to teach, and I realized when I was a student, many chapters are given to students for reading at home. And the teacher will say, please read chapter 12 and come back tomorrow. And there are assignments from that. And so in outcome-based teaching learning, there is lot of onus on the other side. Our work will be too much, but much more the learner has to do.
Okay, now I will ask few of the participants. So they have Dilip Rathod. Would you like to ask a question? Because you have raised your hand as well as a question. Avdut Bise. Yeah, Dilip Rathod. Yeah. Dilip Rathod, sir. Can you hear us? Avdut Bise, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can ask the question, sir. Avdut Bise.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. It's been a wonderful session hearing
Yeah.
you.
You can.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Regardless of doing everything, we do everything every day. We go for exercise. Everything we go after the students. But when we hear you, it has been a wonderful session. Actually, you told me that before starting the session that you said that we will be going for a 5 minutes session of relaxation or meditation.
Yes.
Can you elaborate that so that we can implement in our students also?
Yeah, I would be happy to send those exercises to
Yes, sir.
Professor Deshmukh, and
Okay.
I will also give the website link, and you can also listen to in YouTube how to do the relaxation. It will only
Okay.
take 5 minutes, and
Yes.
that will set the environment.
Thank you, sir.
It's an
Thank you very much.
excellent tool. Yeah, not only for the student, for our personal life. I
Yes,
know
sir.
what I am now. Whatever understanding I have is because of my meditation. I can 100% vouch for that. Whatever simple thing I have learned is only from that meditation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Gajanan Dharne. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Gajanan Dharne, sir.
Somebody has to be muted. I think there is crosstalk.
हाँ बोला सर.
Gajanan speaking, sir.
Yeah,
sir,
बोला.
please.
हाँ.
Sir. Hello.
Unmute
Sir,
करिए.
Krishna, sir.
बोलिए.
Krishna, sir.
बोला बोला.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, you told about the ancient education and then the modern education. Actually, there is a lot of difference, no doubt. But whatever the principle they have told at that time, now also they are applicable. In that case, in previous era,
No, in between there is some disturbance. Sir, there is Jaykumar. There is some disturbance.
and now
Yes,
students
sir.
of
हाँ.
faculty ratio, how to manage this one?
No, I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat, Deshmukh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In
So you
ancient
want
era,
to say
that was the ideal education.
So you want to
Hello?
say, you want to say that we have an ideal education system, okay? As an as
we
we
have
had a
already.
discussion previously,
Huh?
yeah.
Where we have ideal education system? Where we have?
No. Previously, in ancient days, we have an ideal education, which where we are going for an in the jungles and all the ashrams, we are playing that role. But nowadays, the scene is that most of the time we are struggling with the maintaining some kind of rules. We need a teacher student teacher ratio this much. We need to maintain the attendance. We need to make the students score their marks more and more kind of things. It is to be necessary.
No,
How can we cope up in current
no, that
state?
is because we have not understood the real outcomes. See, the unfortunate thing is everybody is bothered about the performance in the examination, the grade point average. Everybody is bothered there. Unless and until we emphasize to the, we all know the Bill Gates or the Steve Jobs and all this, there are many enough examples of successful entrepreneurs who were total failures in their schoolings even. So one should come out of that. This is the problem. In Takshashila, there was no examination at all, no degrees awarded.
Oh,
You
yeah,
have to
I can
just complete.
understand,
And
sir.
if you look at Nalanda, 2,000 teachers for 10,000 students. It is who
Yeah,
to
that is
blame.
there.
That's what I'm telling you. You want as academician something, but you are being enforced. You have been, somebody else is deciding your fate. This is the most unfortunate thing. See, in a US classroom, how many are there in the class? 25. When my daughter studied, 20 in the preschool.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is
course.
what they're
So
saying.
they arrange a classroom in different circles, round tables, and they don't sit, sometimes they sit on a big, ball and sit on that. And then I have seen board meetings, when I was in international board member in Dubai, we have board meeting, we sit on a ball, big ball, and then we will be doing jogging and then attending the meeting. And that is a different, it relaxes a lot and
Okay.
very good decisions comes. The number is created by our own.
Yeah.
We want 250 if there is a demand for that branch. We have created this mess and we have to. I don't think when you cross 45, CBSE is right, 45 is a correct number for attention, to know individually, get engaged, connection. Anything beyond 45, I'm very, very, I know all of my the faculty colleagues will agree. None of this can happen. Real interactions, getting to know each other.
Can I ask Atul Dhale sir to say his question? Dhale sir?
Hello,
Yeah,
sir, Jay Kumar Dhage here.
yeah, bola.
Sir, can I ask question? Am I audible, sir?
Yeah,
Yes,
you are audible.
Jaykumarji,
You
go
can ask.
ahead.
Sir, I would like to ask question related to PO12, lifelong learning. Uh, how to achieve it and what type of assignment should be designed in order to achieve that PO12, assess that PO12.
You see, it is, you have to do. See, what I'm telling is, don't think that this lifelong learning is pertaining to our, say, it's with the mechanical engineering. It is related to that particular discipline specific. It is only, suppose I learn some techniques, whether it is a mathematical techniques or analytical techniques, which I
Okay.
in a medical profession, or there is a medical gene mutation technique algorithms which came from the medical field, and I will use that in, I can, that is called transferable skills. can I use that in fetching for my further learning?
Okay.
That kind of example you have to bring in. But not necessarily, I'm not telling that mechanical only, I will do something, say I will design a totally different product which I have never studied. I will come up with a new mechanisms. I'm not telling that way. It is all about
Okay.
transferable skills, whether whatever you have learned, you have now learnability is there. You will be adaptable, flexible to learn. You have got that ability to pick up anything. It is like, somebody told Vivekananda, it is not a joke. No, people should not take it as a joke. He is a modern, educated, English educated, common man like us. And if Vivekananda, just by glance, he could understand what is in those books, every one of us can do that. This is
But
called learnability. And how do you bring that? That is only possible when you become that knowledge. When you go beyond the classroom as a learner. This is the ability the learner has to demonstrate. Teacher can only facilitate, Jay Kumar. The learner has
okay.
to demonstrate. We have our role is to only facilitate. It is like, I told you, Arjuna
Mhm.
was given all the archery, but he picked up a different skill later on.
Correct. Correct.
This is called
Yes.
transferable skills.
So I think we have a sufficient amount of patience. Now I can just conclude.
And I am
Thank you.
sorry,
Thank
there
you
are
very much.
many questions on the chat window, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope we should not miss anybody. Or I would request my fellow faculty colleagues, they can even write to me. I'd be very
Yeah.
happy, or they can WhatsApp by introducing themselves in my number.
Yeah. Surely I will email you all the.
And my presentation should please be shared
I will
with
share
all
surely.
our
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
your inputs, feedback on my presentation also. And
Sure,
thank
sure.
you, and stay safe. May,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
let
you,
us
sir.
all
And
have
you
a
are in a.
fulfilling career. Let us do what best. One
Yeah.
assignment, if we can make a difference, where
Yeah.
they will
Sure.
go the extra mile. One assignment, I'm telling,
Yeah.
we could do some change in the way they learn. One assignment. Let's
Okay.
not think about big things.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
We
once
have a
again.
very nice, wonderful session. Even you are a
Thank you.
mentor for us. We don't had any kind of pressure till the date. And that
Thank you.
that is what
But you are doing a great
singleness of
job,
you with
and
us.
yeah, you are all
That
doing
is,
great job. Thank you for organizing this, and I'm
yeah.
extremely grateful to all our faculty colleagues who have patiently heard. And
Yeah.
I wish all of them their very best and have a joyful learning experience. This is our profession, and let us make it passion to compassion.
Yeah, sure,
Thank you.
sure, sir. Sure. We'll take up your word further and we'll try to follow your word with full energy and enthusiasm. And thank you very much, sir. Now I
Thank you,
will
sir.
give some instructions to the participants. So we have
So can I
tomorrow
leave the
3.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. Thank you very
everybody.
much,
Have
sir.
a great evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So we have tomorrow 3 sessions only. Morning 10:30 to 1:30, there will be 2 sessions we are going to cover. And from 3:30 onward, there will be only one single session we are going to schedule. I will email you details, how link about it by maybe 9 o'clock in the night, because I have to plan it one day before. That's what I'm not disclosing the who is coming tomorrow and what kind of a session you are going to face it. But I feel is this is what more interesting going on. And thank you all. And surely, if you have any kind of an equations or any kind of an doubts, and you can just either you can mail me or you can WhatsApp me or you can put a message on the Telegram. So most of the attendees have question is that don't full everybody's message box with telling you that you are present. I know if you are learning, that is nothing but your attendance. I don't have any hitch into it that you are surely learning, and whatever you are going to do it, you are, that is for only learning purpose. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you all of you for having a patience. Thank you all.